And welcome back. If you're here, you're probably here to hear the reading of Wilds of Eldraine Episode 4, Ruby and the Frozen Heart, October 10th, 2023, on magic.wizards.com. Magic Stories by K Arsenault Rivera. And welcome to it. We're going to get right into it and begin it. This is going to be a good one. Get ready for an emotional trip and let's roll. The day is brisk and bright when Kellen and Ruby return to Edgeball. After the rough living of Dumbarrow and the wonder of the giant's home, this place seems both a paradise and a hovel. Hovel? Hovel? That is what Kellen likes most about it. If he were here to return home to Oranshire, he knows precisely what he would see. His mother at the loom, his stepfather tending the sheep, the villagers going about their day in perfect harmony. There are no traces of wicked slumber in Oranshire, nor any surprises. Here in Edgewall, there are plenty. First is the spread of the violet across the town, where the once cursed threads scented the streets and alleys. They now form rivers and brooks. When they left, there were dozens of sleepers. Now, with a sinking heart, Kellen realizes that the victims are beyond counting. Leaning against balconies, hidden beneath parchment and blankets, standing at open windows. Even Ruby is thrown off by the sight. She doesn't say so, she's too brave. But he hears it in her sharp draw of her breath as she walks the streets. He sees it in the careful hops she makes to avoid any strands of violet, in the stiffness of her posture. Watch your step, she tells him, with a smile more for his sake than any of the joy for her own. Can't have our hero falling asleep on us. Don't call me that, Kellen replies. My mother always tells me that if I act like something I've done is no big deal, everyone else will too. You're just as heroic as I am. Ruby laughs. Your mom does sound like a nice lady, but you're mistaken. Peter is the hero in our family. Raising your little sister and all, and being the best hunter in town, she hops on a cursed thread. That's a real hero. I think there are plenty of ways to be a hero, Kellen says. Peter's one, but so are you. And I'd like to be one someday too. Well, you're already on a quest, says Ruby. She leads them through the streets to a small cabin on the very edge of town. An uncharitable soul might say it isn't part of Edgeball at all, but the city colors draped in the window proudly proclaim otherwise. A plume of applewood smoke rises from the chimney. Kellen's stomach rumbles. What do you think makes a hero anyway? She asked him. A hero is someone who always does the right thing, he says. Someone who makes others people's lives better. Ruby stops with her hand on the door. She narrows her eyes. Kellen waits to see if she'll answer, but there's no chance to talk it over. Peter spots them from the window and invites them inside. With a fresh venison steak sizzling in his cast iron pans, the subject of heroism gallantly gives way to the part of dinner and plans. They tell him they're going to the Loch Larent, and he agreed to take them on one condition. You must wear the thickest cloak, and when you can no longer feel your nose, you must turn back, no matter the circumstances. But if, but wait, sorry, but what if we're not done by then? Kellen says. Then once the two of you have returned, I will go myself, says Peter. I've heard about the castle. No one's managed to get to the center. Not the other hunters, not bandits. Sir Amadon tried before she came here. In her opinion, it was easier to brave the wilds than it was to walk more than 40 paces across the drawbridge, and she with that fiery magic to warm her. Quiet falls over the room. Kellen glances at Ruby. Ruby at Kellen. I'm not going to turn back, he says. I can't. Not when so many people are sick. My lord said that whoever defeats the witches will end the curse. Your lord did not say it had to be you, lad, says Peter. There's no shame in needing help. You're only a boy. Ruby's still young herself. You must know when a beast can be felled and when it is best to be left be. When Kellen catches Ruby's eyes again, he knows she's thinking the same thing. What if Peter's right? In the end, Ruby makes the promise. Her brother drapes a bearskin across her shoulders, though she insists on keeping the hood. To Cowan, he grants a fine coat of wool, the sight of which makes the boy break out in a groan. The wool is from Oranshire, yet he wears it proudly at night. When Peter tells them that he has a surprise for them, and he buries his face in his raised collar once the embarrassment overcomes him. For there in the town square there are children gathering in red hoods and woolen cloaks. Dozen of them, he thinks, and these are girls in wool as much as there are boys in red. All watch in perfect stillness as two puppets triumph over a manner of trouble to defeat an evil man-eating witch. In the flickering candlelight, Cowan thinks he sees Ruby tear up, but she wipes them away for the second he spots her. And the two of them say no more. The sacred Loch Lyon lies a long week's journey from Edgewall. Peter thinks much of the way, takes them much of the way, but as they approach the loch itself, and he announces that he will stop to make camp. And who could blame him? Even after a full day's travel, it is so cold that Kellen must hop from foot to foot to keep warm. In all his winters, he's weathered only 2 days colder than this, both in the bitterest of months. He and his family huddled up with the sheep so no one would freeze. Deep down, he wondered whether it was possible for someone to freeze at all. It seemed a thing that water did, or perhaps beer, but never people. That's an interesting thought. He wondered less about it now because he doesn't bring that up. Neither does Ruby. Peter is more vigilant. Hey, he has vigilance. He doesn't tap. Are you when he attacks? Are you certain you don't want me to come with you? He asked. You're still recovering, Ruby answers, though Killen hears a pang of regret in her voice. And besides, I think I want to try this one to see how far I can go. They bid farewell to Peter. He holds them close and wishes them well and lingers by the fire as they go. For a long while after, Ruby looks over her shoulder, perhaps searching for his silhouette against the orange light. Everything else in the place is blue, green, or violet. The sky above is marble with all three colors swirling over each other like the layers of a nobleman's cloak. Beneath the frozen surface of the loch, eerie blue lights bob and weave, vying for their attention. Kellyan thinks he sees a pair of yellow eyes under the ice, but a moment later they disappear. Most striking of all is the castle. Seeing through the mirror is one thing. To lay eyes in person is quite another. Kellen had no idea how large it was until now. The main tower stands on a cliff overlooking the loch, but whoever designed it could not bear to stop there. Madness struck the unseen architecture. Gates leading to new fortresses, drawbridges to nowhere, never-ending series of valleys, each giving way to new gate. Kellyan counts 5 Perculius alone. Perculius alone? Okay. They snuck into a cabin, climbed a beanstalk, walked beneath the door to enter a giant stronghold. They had not yet stormed a castle. The road before them, paved with glittering crystal gravel, seems more threat than invitation. Yet Kellen does not hesitate to step upon it. Fear is nothing in the face of the greater good, he tells himself. But Ruby stops, her foot at the edge of the crunchy gravel. This feels different, doesn't it? Only if you let it, Kellen says. And then he holds out his hand. At least we don't have to do any climbing this time. And Ruby laughs up a cloud of vapor. She takes his hand and starts the path. Don't say that too loudly. And Troyan might burst out of a snowdrift. I don't think that would be so bad, Kellen said. The place he used to talk about sounded great, didn't they? Ruby blows a raspberry. The place he's talking about were made up, Kellyanne. All my life in Edgewall, I've never heard anyone talk about a pain circus before. What does that even mean? I don't know. I thought maybe it was something the Fae did, Kellen says. He tries not to let the disappointment reach his tone, but as always, Ruby's too clever for that to work. You really want to see more of the Feylands, don't you? Says Ruby. She squeezes his hand. I'm sure once this is done, you'll be the toast of the town. He isn't so sure about that. Part of him wonders he was always too Fey for the humans. So what if he's too humans for the Fey? Talion already pointed out how little he knew of Fey customs every time they spoke. He still hadn't got the basket pilts to work for him. What if it's the same here but different? He tries to think of something to say, but someone else soon speaks for him. A woman's voice carried on gelid wind. Knights, bandits, and would-be kings have failed to walk this path. 2 children have little hope of success. Turn back. The sky overhead darkens. The wind strengthens. Were it not for the steel pin holding Kellyan's cloak in place, it would have been torn right from his small body. Ruby pulls down the bear's head over her own to keep it from freezing. Kellyan does the same, though his is a plain hood of wool. We're not going to give up that easily, he shouts in the air, but the air is so cold that it cuts him to speak. And when only silence responds, he regrets making such an effort. The brave live short lives. Do you think your age will earn you any mercy from me? My realm will be safe from threats, regardless of who threats might be. Turn back. With every word Hilda speaks, the air around them grows colder. So powerful is the wind that they must strain against it with every step, but they do not stop walking. Kellen keeps glancing over to Ruby as they go. He can't see much of the rest of her face, but he can see is a red as her hood. She is as red as her hood. She can no longer feel her nose. You don't have to keep going, but Ruby only shouts him a sidelong glance. And let the witch win? She won't win if I get there, Cowan says. He speaks into his scarf and tries to keep warm. If we keep going, you will die, comes Hilda's voice. This is your final warning. Heed my words and turn away. The veil of snow has gotten so thick that all he can see is gray and white. Still, he turns into place, looking to find the castle. In the distance, he spots the faintest smudge of blue, a mile away, if not more. Kellens blinks cold eyes. He could turn away, but if he does, no one will ever wake up, and he will never know who his father is. You don't know a questing hero when you see one. Questing, he rasped. Next to him, Ruby laughs, and it makes him feel a little braver. I do. They die as easily as anyone else. You will not be the last, Hilda answers. Her voice fades into the howling of the wind and the creatures within it. The first moves too quickly for the 2 youths to see. A streak of cerulean across their vision, a sound like breaking glass. Only when the icy spear lands at their feet do they realize what they are seeing. The swirling snow ahead of them has solidified into mail and plate, a warrior of frost. At least twice Kellen's size bears down upon them. A new spear forms in his open palm. A wicked thrust aims straight for Kellyan's heart. Ruby pushes him out of the way. Still, the point pierces Kellyan's fine cloak to the snowy ground beneath him. Wind howls in his ears, and snow stings his eyes as he tries to scamper away. But Orishire woe is renowned for its strength. The very fiber of his home, perhaps sheared from his own sheep, keeps him in place. Try as he might, he cannot tear the pinned corner away. He can't hurt you if his spear's stuck, Ruby shouts. Just drop the cloak and go. But he can't. His fingers are too stiff to work the clasp, keeping his cloak in place. And even if he did, where would that leave him? In cold like this, he'd surely freeze. Cowan locks eyes with the warrior through the murk. There's a new shape forming in its free hand. An axe. Ruby, go ahead, he says. Don't be. Her protest is cut short when she's yanked high into the air. Another warrior's formed, and this one's got her in his clutches. A rime-streaked sword is pressed right up against her throat. No, 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 sorry, no, no. This isn't how it's supposed to go. It's one thing for him to be in trouble. There has to be some other way out of this. Out of this. In story, there's always something that the hero figures out. He doesn't have any weapons. He doesn't have any magic because his mother taught him any, and his father none. Father never. The warrior readies a blow. Dad, please, Kellen whimpers. He reaches out one last time for the basket hilts, and a gold light cuts through the gray. Something in Kellen feels bright, as springs no matter the surrounding. Something that pours into the hilt and changes them. Acting on instinct, he lashes out, and his newfound sword cuts through the frost warrior's arm. Killian gawps at the delicate blade of light in his hands, the thing he conjured from his own desperation. Around the hilt, the light seems to sharpen like thorns. He admires it for a second, but now he has to get them out of this mess. Cohen ducks beneath the warrior's legs, running straight for Ruby. Before he hesitates, he lops the warrior's arm off too. Catching Ruby on the way down is easy thing is a comparison. Easy down and down is an easy thing in comparison. Cowan, you're doing it, she says, eyes wide. Faye Powers, you're really doing it. And I am. If he says anything else, he's worried he'll ruin it, as if naming it out loud will dispel the effect. He sets her back down on the path. The warriors, howling in pain, have wandered away, leaving their weapons lodged in the snow. Ruby picks up the sword and stands back to back with Cohen on the path. But the longer they wait, the harder it is to stay upright. His initial giddiness begins to give way. The magical sword in his hands is heavy as iron, has gotten colder already. A strange sleepiness creeps in as he worries that he must be the curse. He worries that it must be the curse, but there are no plumes of violet here. No magic save no magic save his.
Save his.
No magic save his. But there are no plumes of violet here. No magic save his and Hilda's. So why is he so? Kellen's eyelids begin to droop. Ruby, I think I might be. Kellyan, Ruby says. She turns. Kellyan! Maybe they should rest before then, though. He's so cold and so tired, and he's already done so well. He earned a nap. Kellen falls. This time Ruby is the one to catch him. Among the swirls of blues, white, and green, there is a girl in red, and a boy who carries through the snow. She carries through the snow, cradled in her arms, curling up instinctively into the warmth of her cloak. Cowan is so fragile that she worries the falling snowflakes will break him. So shallow is his breathing that could she not feel his heartbeat, she'd think him dead. Take him and go home. Looking down on him, she knows it's good advice. Her brother would tell her the same. They've failed. She can take him back, and then the two of them can figure out something else to do, or maybe some other hero will come by. Someone with a heart like a furnace and blood like molten ore who will not be slowed by the cold. A month ago, she wouldn't have hesitated. Life was about looking out for you and yours. It was about staying alive. But it's not just that anymore. This is bigger than the two of them. The puppet show showed her that. All those children in their red hoods, what would they think if she left them here? What would Cohen say when he woke, knowing he might never learn the truth of his father? How could she live with herself in the if the wicked slumber never faded away? Ruby begins to walk. Snow crunches under her feet, wind whistles in her ear. Her footsteps have never felt as heavy as this, each one a battle. You owe me nothing. People don't need to owe each other to help each other, Ruby answers, speaking into the razor wind. There is no response. For a long span, there are no words at all, no sounds, save the gust, the snow, her breathing. She can't even hear Kellen's. She can't hear Kellen's. Frost has formed on his eyelashes, on her eyelashes, though it yet far, yet, damn it, though it is yet far, the castle comes closer with every step taken, every battle won. One step, another. Her leg hurts. He is small and weak, and you are hardy and strong. You have hunter's blood. Abandon him, and you may yet reach me. Ruby feels like she's breathing in glass, but she keeps breathing. Keep talking. I was getting lonely anyway. A strong gust, likely the witch's displeasure, knocks her off her feet. She and Cohen tumble into the snow. Cold saps the strength she's fought so hard to keep. Each of her limbs seem to weigh as much as a harvested pig. Yet she raises them. Yet she stands. Yet she lifts the boy from the snow and carries him once more. And not once throughout does that does the thought occur her to leave him behind, one foot in front of the other. You know what I think? Ruby shouts into the wind. I think you're lonely too. And that's why you keep taunting me. You don't get to talk to people otherwise, do you? Another powerful gust hail batters her. She hunkers down, the cloak taking the worst of the impact. Leave. Ruby holds Cowan tighter and keeps going. The skeletal gates rise up before her. How long has she been walking? It feels an eternity. She turns and surveys her tracks over the frozen wastes. Peter said that was the easiest part, getting to the outmost bridge. It was crossing it that killed. When she turns back to the drawbridge, she can see them. Lumps beneath the blanket of pure white snow. Bodies kept hidden from sight. She and Kellen would be so small as to escape notice if they ended up like that. Even Peter wouldn't be able to find her. Turn back when you cannot feel your nose, he said to her. He made her promise. In the truth, she hasn't been able to feel it for some time. Ruby steps on the bridge. There are no mountains to moderate the wind here, no structures to shield from hail or sleet. The moment she's out in the open, the weather comes at her from all sides. Her fingers tremble. She could not move them if she tried, but she does not need to move them to keep hold, to keep walking. One step, another. You're a fool to continue. Maybe, Ruby says. She can't argue the point, though she's only a quarter of the way along the bridge, and it's already getting hard to keep lifting her feet. You are going to die here. I won't know that until I do, Ruby says. She's not lifting her feet anymore. She just can't. She drudges through the snow like a drunkard walking home from a pub. I have to try. But why? Why? The witch asks. For the first time, there's an urgency in her voice. For the first time, she actually sounds upset. You have no reason to, because my friend wants to defeat you. So he can meet his father and save the realm. I'm not going to let him down, Ruby says. 1/3 of the way there, she walked by 5 bodies already. You will abandon your life because it's the right thing to do, Ruby says. Another step, one more. Her knees give. She can't walk anymore. Big deal. She can still crawl. Ruby forces herself to roll over. She shifts Cohen's weight onto her back, throws her hands ahead. They plunge through the snow, so cold, so tired, so clumsy, but she has to try. This is pointless. You know that. He would do the same for me. He wouldn't think this is pointless, Ruby says. It is going to work. She knows that deep down, but she's got to keep trying anyway. It isn't going to work. Even if she passes out, even if the snow takes her, Kellen will wake up at some point. Maybe his Fey blood will help. And when he gets to the castle, he can figure it out. She reaches the next handhold, but instead she finds an outstretched palm, its fingers pure white, the nails upon it delicately pointed. A crystal bracelet glimmers on her wrist. Take my hand. That voice. It's the witch. But what is she doing out here? Ruby takes a shaky breath. Her brother met a witch once. Look where it got him. She shakes her head. No, I'm not. I mean you no harm, says the witch. But if you will not believe me, I shall prove it to you. The witch kneels next to her. She seems sadder than Ruby expected. No amount of white finery, no heavy white winter crown, no magic can conceal the loneliness of her pale eyes. Slowly the weather around them clears until the gentle snowfall remains. It is a perfect silence that the witch leans over Kellen. Sweet children, we have borne so much trouble. She presses a kiss to each of their foreheads. Be welcome in my winter home. Nah, I don't trust that lady. Oh, magic tingles along Ruby's skin as she starts to lose focus. What are you doing? She mumbles. Keeping you safe, the witch says. Ruby feels cool fingers running through her hair. You were right about me. I'm afraid. I'm lonely. I'd forgotten that. But the two of you have shown me what I have forsaken by staying here in this castle. Ruby's vision starts to fade. Sleep, child. When the two of you wake, you shall have the truth. And that's going to be this chapter. Not ending yet. I'm just going to have a quick bang. It's getting spicy. I don't trust this witch as much as I can throw her. Remember, everybody, get banged. Oh, boy. Oh, the cushions underneath changed my level. Oh.
Are you off screen?
No. I'm just about to go. I just stopped at this chapter. You're still coming. I just want to take a quick break, take a breath. All right. They have slept. Let's continue. Hopefully, they slept well. The youth awake hours later in a room glistening of ice. Two golems, crafted from the same materials as the wall, guard their slumber. Blankets, thick and plush, surround them, and before them is a morning banquet presented on a crystal tray. Spiced cider, pie, hearty soup, anything someone could want to warm their bones lies beneath a sparkling cloak. Cloche? Cooche? Cloche? A sparkling cloche. All that remains is to reach for it. Kellen does without thinking. His stomach's rumbling, his head hammering. What else is a young man to do? But Ruby stays his hand. It's the witch doing, she says. The witch means you no harm, comes the answer from across the room. She's standing from a chair, setting down a book. She picks up her own mug and saucer before coming to sit across from them. I'm glad to see that you are well. How do you know this isn't a trick? Asked Ruby. You've saved us out here, but maybe you're only wanting to put us at ease for a while. Maybe you're going to eat us. Eat you? I suppose you've met Agatha, she says. We threw her in a cauldron, says Kellen. Thanks, Kellen. He's not sure how Ruby is about this, or even how he ended up here, but he thought it bore saying. It bothers Hilda. She gives no sign of it. She deserves no less, she says. I used to believe I was different from them, The other two, I mean. They also sought power. All I've ever wanted was to be alone. Kellen glances at Ruby. He has a faint memory of Hilda's voice, but it's one of those that puts him at ease. He squeezes Ruby's hand. Even if you like being alone more than being with people, it's always good to have friends. The witch smiles. Her face is not suited for such a thing, so it is, she says. Even when they are very skeptical friends, Ruby spouts. I'm just looking out for him. A laugh as unsuited as the witch as her smile. I bear no ill will, but you are difficult to impress. Will two more gifts prove my intentions to you? Ruby crosses her arms, as if waiting to see what they might be. In the meantime, Kellen avails himself of cider and pie. Good old Kellen. Hilda does not mean them any harm. If she did, they would have left them out there. She would have left them out there. Besides, his mother always taught him it was rude to turn down hospitality like this. But he soon stops when he sees what Hilda's done. With a careful, light touch, she's lifted the frozen crown from her head and set it on the table before them. There, I feel lighter already. Take that to your kindly lord as a proof of my defeat. Are you sure? Kellyanne asks. You aren't defeated if you're still around, though, Ruby says. Who's to say you won't keep growing the castle and freezing people to death? I do, she says, gestures to the window. Take a look outside. If you look, without the crown, I can maintain only a small home for me and mine. Ruby narrows her eyes and goes to the window, Kellen following. The morning sun plays upon the castle walls, illuminating the water already running in rivulets down the stone. Streams already cascading down the cliffside. The castle has begun to melt. I think she's serious, Kellen says to Ruby. Then to their host, that was a brave thing for you to do, to give up your power like that. My mother always said witches aren't all to be feared. Your mother did not speak falsely, says Hilda. Besides, I had plenty of inspiration. Ruby sits. At last she lets herself enjoy some of the cider. Kellen takes the crown and sets it on his lap. You said you had something else for us? A gift of information, said Hilda. I heard the two of you speaking on the way here. You serve the kindly lord. When you leave the castle, you will surely find one of their gateways awaiting you, but this time you will not cross the threshold unaware. What do you mean? Ruby asked. Hilda looks towards the window before continuing. We witches do not create the wicked slumber alone. To do so would have been beyond our power. What? says Kellen. When the invaders arrived, we each had different ideas of how to handle matters. Talion was one who broke the stalemate. Ariet's sleeping curse, they argued, would be the surest way to counteract the invaders. Since the three of us could never have cast a spell that powerful on our own, we never had considered it otherwise. There were four of us at once, and we might have had some hope then, but she died 20 years ago. We needed four. Talion, as strong as may be, needed us for it to work as much as we needed them. Thus, they offered us a chance to save the realm, and boons for our help, always boons with Faye. Kellen swallows. But Talion said that you'd put the whole world to sleep. Hilda smoothed Kellyan's hair. It was only meant to stop the invaders, she says. That is continued spiraling out of control afterwards is Ariet's doing. Of that I'm certain. She leaped at the chance to enact a curse of that size, to have all these people at her back and call. I think she might even done it without a boon. But the kindly Lord not offered one. But that is but this is supposed to be a heroic quest, Kellen says. His lips start to tremble, his voice wavering. I thought we were doing the right thing. Tellion's the one who did this. You are doing the right thing. Tellion has sent you to clean up the mess that all four of us created. That is good and a noble thing to do, to fix things, but it is done best when it is done knowingly. Ruby squeezes his shoulder, but Kellen can't stop shaking. Talion created this. They aren't supposed to lie, are they? Witches three have these land with slumbered plague. Kellyanne picks up the crown in his lap and storms out of the room. Down the winding halls and spiral stairs he goes, despite not knowing the way. Behind him, Hilda calls, but he cannot make out what she is saying. With his blood rushing from through his ears, when at last he arrives outside, he sees Hilda is right. There is already a portal. When Cohen reaches the door, Ruby's hand finds his wrist again. She is sweaty and out of breath, having run after him all this way, but she is there with him. Together, remember, she says. Kellen can't summon any words. The lump in his throat is too great. He nods through the gateway. Together into the land of Fae, the two heroes stride, the land of false castles and false hopes. Talion awaits, draped as always on their throne. Gallant adventures, glory great you have earned. Caliant throws the crown at Talion's feet. The kindly lord studies the priceless boon. They crook a brow at the boy. Your father's spirit is at last showing itself. What troubled you? You lied, Kellen says. Talion waves a wand of hawthorn. A fey handmaiden picks up the crown and carries it away. Talion for once sits properly on the throne. They do not lie, they say. It is anathema to us. Anathema to us. If I were to lie, my blood would clot like spoiled milk. We know about the curse, Ruby says. We know you were the one who had the idea. You're using us, aren't you? Talion leans back. Is that a smirk on your no? Talion leans back. Is that a smirk on your face? Kellen thinks it might be, and he hates it. Ah, that matter. Is it such a bad thing to be used for such noble ends? A knight's sword does not complain of drinking blood. Dang. This isn't the same, Kellen protests. You asked if we were pure of heart. You said you'd help me find how harmful to break down like this, to cry in front of the Fey King. Yet Kellen cannot stop his voice from cracking, nor the tears from flowing. He wipes his eyes in frustration. I believed you. I really believed you knew him. I do, says Talion. Kellen's tears have no effect on them whatsoever, and I will tell you what I know of him if you complete this quest. Or will you refuse to save the realm because you don't like the reason it is being saved? Kellen clenches his fist. I didn't say. It isn't that simple. Nothing on our land is simple, Talion says. You shall find Ariette at Castle Ardenvale. Oh gosh. Defeat her and you will end the curse. End the curse and I will tell you of your father, or do not feed her. Return to your pastoral home and never again come as near to the belongings as you did when you embraced your heritage. The choice is yours. A wave of the wand, the phase world flickers and fades around them. Once more, they stand on the cliffs outside Hilda's castle, and Kellen begins to weep. Episode 4. Wilds of Eldraine, Episode 4, Ruby and the Frozen Heart. Tomorrow we'll be on Episode 5 and finishing up. Thank you, everybody, and everybody have a great night, and stay groovy. There we go. 39 minutes.